Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. I think everyone is still outside. They don't want to come in. Maybe we need to go out there and join them. It is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day. Happy Labor Day weekend. I never really knew too much about Labor Day, but really today we honor all workers, and they would say in America, but I'm going to say all workers everywhere in the past and in the present time. And we celebrate their significant contribution to our own personal lives and to the strength and prosperity and well-being of our country. This is what Labor Day is about. So happy Labor Day, all you all workers. And welcome to those of you who have invited us into your homes through the technology of Facebook Live. Thank you very much for joining us. Is there anyone here for the very first time? Okay.
And now the readings. Oops. Here. The readings for today are from George B. Hinckley and Martin Luther King Jr. George B. Hinckley says, "Through my work, though my work may be menial, my contribution may be small, I can perform it with dignity and offer it with unselfishness. My talents may not be great, but I can use them to bless the lives of others. The goodness of the world in which we live is the accumulated goodness of many small and seemingly inconsequential acts." And Martin Luther King says, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." So it is.
Good morning to those of you who may have just arrived in the sanctuary. Michael Seltzer. The theme for the month. Oh, look at him. He is like red. Anyway, the theme for the month of September is Serving the World, and my talk title is It's All About Me. Now, what we're not talking about is narcissism or selfishness. It's all about me has a much deeper meaning, a broader context. What we are talking about is who we are and who are we willing to become. It requires a recognition of our interconnectedness and an awareness of our oneness. What we are talking about is stopping the blame game and becoming willing to accept responsibility for ourselves, for our thoughts, for our desires, for our beliefs, for our choices, for our actions, and for each other and for the planet. What we are talking about is serving the world from a context that says it is all about me. There are 4 spiritual laws that play an important role in this conversation, and they include the law of interdependence, the law of cause and effect, the law of trusteeship, and the law of free will. The law of interdependence says that each of us exists in this world only as part of a complex web of interlocking ecological and social systems, a collective we, if you will, that there is absolutely no separate me. Here at the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, we would look even beyond that truth to a greater truth that says that everything is a manifestation of God, an individualized expression of the One, that we are all connected by this golden thread of God stuff that weaves itself throughout all of life, that while it looks to our human eyes as though there are many expressions, there is in truth only one of us here. We have never been separate, nor will we ever be separate. The law of cause and effect is described by Newton's third law of motion, which says, for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. If I throw a stone up into the air, then it will fall to the earth every single time. If I slightly push the first domino in a row of dominoes, it will hit the next one, which will then move forward and hit the next, until ultimately the whole entire chain has collapsed. Our planet is composed of interlocking webs of systems so that almost everything that we do today has a consequence of some type, somewhere, at some point in time. The Bible says, what we sow, so shall we reap. Now, the law of trusteeship says that no one living today actually owns anything. That we are all merely trustees with a responsibility to administer the planet's assets to ensure that they are sustained in a healthy condition. Bob Doppelt, in his book From Me to We, says, it is a universal moral principle that the more power one has over another, the greater is the duty to use that power benevolently. If human behaviors now determine the fate of the planet, individually and collectively, we have a responsibility to do what is necessary to sustain it. The law of free will states that even though our perceptions and our behaviors are strongly influenced by our upbringing or by today's current cultural worldview or by the physical, political, and economic conditions of the times, that we have the capacity to change our thinking and our practices at any given moment. That we have a natural ability to reveal, to examine, and to alter the core assumptions and beliefs that have shaped our lives. This really means that at any given time, we can choose to abandon the views that no longer serve us, keep the ones that do, or adopt new ways of seeing and responding to the world. We can do this at any time. Now, many of us here today are probably familiar with at least some of these laws, although I did see a few question marks on the law of trusteeship. But being familiar with them on an intellectual level does not change our experience of the world, nor can it change the world itself. We have to be willing to be the change that we wish to see in the world. We have to be willing to put these spiritual laws into action in our lives. We have to be able to prove them in our lives, and then we have to be able to serve the world by consciously using them. Bob, I'm going to call him Bob D from now on, says in his book From Me to We, the challenges that society faces today illuminate the changes that each of us needs to make in ourselves. Even as we blame others for today's turmoil, many of us sense that something within us is deeply amiss. Our long-held assumptions and beliefs don't seem to explain the tumultuous events occurring all around us. We intuitively know that unprecedented changes are unfolding across the planet. We yearn for a way to make a sense of these frightening events, but we don't know where to start. Since, as my title suggests, it's all about me, maybe the place to start is within ourselves. The place to start is with a willingness to look within, to uncover any thoughts or beliefs that no longer serve us and bring them out into the light. And then to be willing to commit ourselves to a new way of being in the world from a place of responsibility for the whole. The place to start is with our awareness of these 4 spiritual laws. To become aware of our own personal relationship with each one of them, and to be willing to commit to them in a more powerful way, in a way that moves us from a more self-absorbed idea of it's all about me, to a way that actually moves us from me to we. So let's start with the law of interdependence. The most harmful belief, really I'm going to say it again, the most harmful belief that is widely held today is the illusion that we are separate from one another. This belief has produced an extreme form of individualism, a form of individualism that holds the sacredness of the individual above everything else. Anything that threatens our ability to do what we want to do it, when we want to do it, is considered a danger to our personal freedom and to our way of life. This belief in separation and its resulting individualism leads us to accept the notion that that self-interest is the driving force behind all human behavior. But the truth is that a selfless concern for the welfare of others is also encoded into our genes. It is the unconditional love, the caring, and the compassion that we arrived on the planet with. We were all born with a natural capacity to nurture each other and to honor the planet. We have a choice in the matter, and in order to be able to navigate the troubled times and eventually emerge in a healthier space, then we need to be willing to turn away from this idea of separation and turn instead toward the truth of our interdependence. We have to be able to turn away from responding to the world through a lens of individualization and to begin to respond to the world through a lens of our oneness. This requires a shift in our context for living from a very narrow context of me to a more expanded context of we, a context that includes all people and all organisms and all interconnections that we are a part of. Bob says most of us intuitively know this. We recognize that the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink are produced by natural processes, and that our loved ones are important to our well-being. But too often we ignore the basic fact of life. Outdated assumptions and beliefs lead us to think and act as if we are independent entities that can exist without the interactions with and influences of other processes, organisms, or people. Only when we are truly aware of the integrated nature of life will we gain an accurate sense of what we need. Only when we understand the context in which we live and move and have our being will we be able to create a world that works for everyone. The first and most important commitment that we need to make to resolve the many problems of today is to see and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are part of a complex web. Once we make this commitment, then we become willing to do whatever it takes within ourselves to contribute to the health and the sustainability of the whole. Does that make sense? Now, this might feel a little paradoxical to some of you, because on one hand, I am talking about it's all about me. But on the other hand, I am talking about how we have to be deeply grounded in our interdependence. Now, we have to be able to hold them both. Because until we can realize that it's all about me, nothing about we will ever change. It has to start within each of us, within our own selves, within our own consciousness, before it will outpicture in us collectively. Does that make sense? The second commitment that we have to make has to do with the law of cause and effect. Now, we have to be willing to be 100% responsible for our thoughts, our beliefs, our choices, and our actions. Each of them has consequences, and we need to be willing to be accountable for all of them. We often tend to focus exclusively on our own needs and wants, and tend to deny or dismiss or even ignore the many ways in which our thoughts and our behaviors affect others and affect all of the systems that we are a part of. The invitation is to consciously consider all of the direct and indirect effects that our thoughts and our behaviors have on the whole. In order to do this, you already got your thinking caps on, yes? In order to do this, we have to truly understand that the effects of the world of form cannot cause something else to happen in the world of form. Consciousness is back of everything. Consciousness is back of all effects. Consciousness is back of all circumstances. Consciousness is back of all situations. Consciousness is back of all relationships. I know that it is a hard idea to swallow, but an economic crisis, for example, cannot cause a house to not be sold. Only a belief in lack and limitation can do that. During the last economic crisis, there were many people who sold and bought houses again and again and again and made lots of money doing it. We have to stop looking at the circumstances. We have to stop looking at the symptoms and begin to look at the underlying root cause of what is happening today all around the world. We have to look at the underlying cause. Our thoughts, our beliefs, and the choices and the actions that we make because of them. Bob says the secret to resolving today's rapidly growing suite of crises is a profound change in the way we think about ourselves and the world around us. The power of thought has been taught by almost every religion and philosophy since the beginning of time. The great spiritual teachers and thinkers have consistently told us that our lives are expressions of our inner assumptions, belief, and reasoning. If you've been here for any length of time, you have probably heard someone quote the great Greek philosopher Hermes, who said, "As within, so without." Or perhaps the Bible, which says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." Perhaps you may have heard that Hinduism teaches your success or failure depends entirely on the quality of your thought. Or perhaps you heard that the Buddha said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. The bottom line is that we create our reality. The things around us are real, but what we see and what we believe about what we see is at all times our own creation. Our perceptions and our actions are always a reflection of our inner thoughts. It can be no other way. This means that if we can change our thinking, we can change our lives. Yay! Good news. If we are able to open ourselves to seeing the world in new ways, then those new ways will become our reality. If we can open ourselves to profound adjustments in our assumptions and beliefs about ourselves, about each other, and about the world, then those new adjustments will become our experience. This will happen one person at a time for those people who are grounded in the belief that it is all about me. This is the way that we can serve the world. The third commitment that we have to make is about the law of trusteeship. This commitment asks us to acknowledge our trustee obligations and to take responsibility for the continuation of all of life. This commitment emphasizes our innate God qualities of unconditional love and caring and compassion and cooperation. It asks us not only to do no harm, but to also do good in the world. It asks us to treat others and to treat the planet as we would like to be treated ourselves. Our belief in individualism leads us to believe that we have no responsibility to anything or anyone outside of ourselves or our families or our communities, but this belief is erroneous. We are intimately connected to everything and everyone, and when we remember this truth and live our lives from that awareness, the world will be healed. This is how we can serve the world. The fourth commitment that we have to make has to do with the law of free will. This commitment asks us to choose our own destiny. We were given free will when we arrived on the planet. We have and are capable of self-awareness and independent thought. We can choose at any time to let go of any thoughts or abandon any views that no longer serve us, keep the ones that do, or adopt new ways of thinking and seeing. We do not have to follow the race consciousness ideas of the time simply because we have always and other people have always believed in those race conscious ideas, especially when the prevailing thoughts are really mired in judgment or separation or anger or fear or divisiveness. While we might inherently know this truth, it is often hard to think a thought or have a point of view that goes against the grain, or that other people say is pretty Pollyanna-ish, or that we're simply out of touch with reality. Now, some people are reluctant to engage in independent thought and to change their behaviors because of fear. Or perhaps they are simply more comfortable in the current situation than courageous about doing something different. Other people are resigned to the world's conditions and lack motivation. They tend to be overwhelmed by issues and lack the self-confidence they need to be able to really change their thoughts and their behaviors. Some people are rebellious, vehemently opposed to any suggestion that the possibility exists that their current thoughts or their current behaviors would harm anyone, or harm the environment, or harm themselves. while others rationalize. They project the responsibility of all of the problems on the world onto other people or onto forces that they really have absolutely no control over. Now, in order to serve the world, we have to do something different. In order to serve the world, we have to let go of reluctance. We have to let go of resignation. We have to let go of rebelliousness, and we have to let go of rationalization, and we have to be willing to think freely and independently. Bob says all social change begins at the individual level. Now, this means that the only way that we can cause a shift, the only way that we can change the world is within ourselves. The invitation today is to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is all about me. And so it is. So I invite you to turn within. And it's here with my eyes closed and my attention turned inward that I am acutely aware of the power and presence of God that is within me and surrounding me. I know that it is the truth of my very life, that it is who and what I am at my very core. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here today. That each of us is a unique and divine expression of God, an ambassador of God on the planet at this time. And ambassador of the love, the grace, the peace, the joy, the creativity, and the wisdom that is the very presence of God itself. This is who we are. This is who we came here to be. These are the gifts that we all have within us, that we are encouraged to share. And it is from this place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us today. Truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation. That there is a way of living our lives from that truth, from that deep and abiding awareness of who and what we are and what we came here to be and to do. I know that there is a way that we can live our lives recognizing our responsibility to the whole. That we truly can stand firmly grounded in our interdependence, choose to use our free will to think a new thought, have a new idea, bring a new way of being into the world. To stand firmly grounded in our trusteeship, taking care of everyone and everything in the planet as we would like to be taken care of. And recognizing that our thoughts, our beliefs, our choices, and our actions have consequences. I claim for each of us that our yes to being here today is a powerful yes to being on this path and to really being a connected, thoughtful, kind, joyous, compassionate person on the planet. I claim ease and grace for us around our lives, around being the space and place that smooths the crooked spots, the rough spots, that gathers people together and creates magnificent experiences. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that they are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation, letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves and for each other simply by saying, "And so it is." Amen.